did actually get out.
It's all right, nothing interesting happened.
Okay. I mean, I don't want people complaining.
We got the new, they got a new computer
Okay.
and it's been messing with sound levels.
Oh, okay.
So
Let me
we'll
know
work
if
on
you
it.
can't hear us. Or maybe it's.
I don't think anyone is. I've been told that, you know, I've been told people, I've been told by a person, yeah, this person tried to watch on YouTube, follow it because.
All right, so live feeds are on, everybody's logged in, so I have voice again.
Yay.
That's exciting. Kelly is not ill, and I didn't notice those things, so I've been keeping a little bit honest if I miss anything from Sunday. You are the sanity checker.
Am I?
You are.
That's a, well,
I was not 100% well, so if I forget something or misremember it, you documented it well. All right, so attendance for the record. Let's start this one. We've got in the room with us, special guests, Councilman Starr, Kyle Nylon Conver, and Commission members Nina, Brian, Jen, Shelley, Sarai, Sarai, Paul, Evan, Deb, Michael, Eddie, Pam, Linda, Sid, myself. All right, so do we want to, I know a lot of the minutes went out, do we want to start there? Do we want to have a chance to look through those, or do we need a little bit more time on the new minutes and just review the old ones?
I would like more time on them to work.
That's fair.
I read the 28th and Amazon, and I don't know anything else. So I have 3 sets of minutes here, so.
So we're going to defer those.
All of them. Okay.
I think that's fair. There were a lot of people who were sick, out. Right. Reading through them, I think it's fair. I'm sure for those. All right, so we did meet on Sunday, and thank you for coordinating the getting posted.
Oh, my pleasure.
I'm going to confirm the schedule for Sundays going forward, to make sure that we have that.
Okay. And I think it's better, like I said, it's better to have it posted and then cancel it than not have it posted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our plan is for April to meet Sundays with the exception of Easter Sunday. So nobody wants to meet Easter Sunday.
I prefer.
But what if there's eggs? Someone puts on the eggs. All right, so that puts the 14th. Yes.
I don't care if we meet Easter Sunday or not.
You want to take those off? Do people want to meet Easter Sunday?
Oh, I,
I think we should.
Okay, all right.
No,
You deserve it.
people have fun.
Yeah.
I'll write those off.
meals talk.
All right, so 14th, 28th. And that takes us into May, so May 5th. Go ahead and say we're meeting all 3 of those Sundays.
Sure.
I'll get those postings requested.
9 o'clock.
Yes. I think I requested 9 and noon, we never made it that long, that's what I requested for. And then Thursdays, we're still good. It's the 11th, 18th, 25th, May 2nd. No concern for any of those. Awesome. I'll follow up on those.
And our public meeting is still the 27th, or?
We moved that to the 27th, yes, so let's talk about that. We had some requests to put anything that got drafted. Hello, Vinny, welcome. Anything that got drafted set up on the site, people were requesting to see on the website, so we were looking at that. To be honest, I haven't checked to see if it's done.
Well, it's not done because we haven't,
The
We
last,
run the top group.
Kelly asked that we, vote in this group, on what we were posting. Once we know what that is, and I have it as it's going to be posted. Back to this.
So we had two prevailing thoughts. One was to put up completed sections in a separate section on the website. The draft we have ones that people can read. The other thought was to put up everything that we have approved, even if it's only part of the section. So if you could read the part you agree on, and we'll just coming soon for the parts that are still read on our draft. I'm personally a fan of the first, but those are the two options that we're going to be bandying about. There were some people who were here Sunday to help bandy about their ideas. So we're throwing it out there. What are the thoughts from the?
I think I'm more comfortable putting up completed sections and putting up partial sections, maybe just see people like stuff.
The whole meeting is using
Any language that we said this is the language we're going with the plan.
completed sections, just easier.
I think we are a friend of, we all agree completed sections. And understanding there obviously still draft, because it's the whole thing for a legal counsel. So we have the preamble, articles 1 and 2, correct?
Three, right?
I do have,
Was that, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Article 1. Article 2. Article 3. All agreed. All right, Article 3. Article
And just for the
4 still has some stuff that needs worked on apparently.
just for the audio record, can you say what articles 1 and 3 are?
Article 1 is name, boundaries, form of government. Obviously, we have the preamble to find approved as well. Powers of the municipality is Article 2. Article 3 is the council, like the creation of the council. Article 4, which still needs some work apparently, is legislative procedure. So the section on introduction, reading, and public hearings of ordinances and resolutions. Kelly has some different, I think he was gonna work on some wording
We know,
in it.
he has questions asked Paul Bear.
Okay,
And I know Paul replied, but I would let him speak to reply.
I don't
copy
copy, yeah. And he obviously hasn't updated it yet, so, and then also zoning measures and adoption of technical codes and codification of ordinances, and I think those are all the ones that he has questions out to Paul on. Article 5 is mayor, and we have, it looks like Article 5 is done.
I think we were holding off on calling that done as we were done with the administrator, in case we had to come back and.
I do have a comment.
That's probably. So let's, and then administrator, we have, it looks like some stuff. Kelly told me that we're supposed to be working on 7 and 8 today, but do we need to work on 6 first, or is he waiting for information for us to work on 6?
So he sent me an updated copy. What do you have?
He sent it to me like an hour ago.
Okay, yeah, that's the last. Well, let's talk before we go there.
Okay.
Hosting. Preamble, articles 1, 2, 3.
Because I'm not finding this document in the one drive.
That's because Kelly has control of it, so we would need to, I guess, just email him and ask for it.
This is the working draft, so we can do it too.
Yeah, so just however anybody wants to get it to me.
Okay.
And then I guess from a formatting on the webpage question, do we want it just a document link, or do we want it a page that you're reading on the webpage?
Let's just read it on the webpage.
That way it's super fancy and make it so that it's expandable. So here's all the articles, you put on one that expands.
We can try, but that ups it from 10 minutes though.
It's fine, I think that for the sake of people actually reading it, that might be easier as compared to scrolling through
By
everything.
article.
Yeah. So I will get you the initial draft. You will do the actual stuff on the website here.
I don't know if I can-
Is that gonna be on the which website's it gonna be at?
MinervaParkCharter.com.
May I introduce something?
Absolutely.
Since we're talking about putting this on the website, I found an addition that I think we should put under the powers of council. It deals with the boards and commissions, and I found it in several other ones. And it says the power to require the mayor, department heads, and boards and commissions to provide information and reports to council.
I think we talked about that, requiring reports.
There's something in the mayor, duties of the mayor. Duties and powers, the mayor or designee, no.
So Shelley, would that be in the section where they talk about their ability to create?
Yeah, the section of Article 3.01 is powers of council. And it delineates how to levy taxes, how to adopt and provide enforcement of police. I just thought it,
What kind of report, I guess, do you think, maybe I'm thinking?
well, we had talked to the board and commission, and I think it's in Evan's notes, even, that, or somebody's.
Yeah, planning commission.
Yeah, they could
But
just
talking
talk
about having them,
All right,
We
Give a regular-
we talked about, I don't know why we wanted the mayor, which is why I'm not understanding the question.
so it's under administrator. We have section 2, powers and duties of the administrator, and under that, section B, we have the, under point 3, it says prepare the budget estimates annually, submit them to council, and administer the appropriations adopted by council. Prepare and submit to council and to the public annually, no later than February 15th, complete report of the finances and administrative activities of the village for the preceding year.
Is that,
So-
that kind of report?
no, this has to do with boards and commissions. I mean, that we are part of it.
So we also
But that's fine, if it's everywhere else, that's
We
fine.
put under, I know what you're talking about, we talked about having boards and commissions like the planning, do a quarterly report.
Which only be dealt with individually. I just thought that as general,
So we also have
We did want to require.
the last point
Yes.
under,
yes.
yeah, so the last point under duties for the administrator is perform such other duties not inconsistent with this charter as may be required by the council, the mayor, or the Ohio Revised Code. And I think that, a request from council saying, hey, can we get some sort of report on this? And then the administrator goes to that committee and says, hey, I've been requested a report, get it back to me in this amount of time.
Okay, as long as I just want to make sure everybody covers. That's all. Okay, I'm good.
Okay,
It's a good point. Yeah, because we're bringing it up, we brought up the planning, and so.
So I think what I'm hearing Sarai say is if the administrator presents a report, it goes to the commission versus what I'm hearing you say, Shelley, is somebody outside of that administrative report may have some other reports, is kind of sort of what you're thinking or not?
No, I was just thinking that covered the requesting reports from any boards and commissions that were subsequently there. She's right, that I cover too. It's not something lacking.
Right.
But I just thought putting things, because we've been asked so frequently to delineate responsibilities clearly. It's the only reason I thought that. But I'm not tied to it. It just occurred to me.
Well, I kind of am fond of having it incumbent upon the boards and commissions to present their own report.
Right, that's what this says. Is for them to give a report. And it's okay, it's already in each other section, and it's covered.
Do you have a question?
No, I don't.
Is that making you guys?
So I'm.
So what I'm seeing is the difference between what Shelley is saying and what's in our, currently in the charter, is that our charter compels the various boards and sub-boards administrators to create these reports and give them to the council. Whereas I think-
Upon their request.
Well, I think
I
it's-
don't see requests.
I think it's just, I think ours currently compels these boards to do that. Whereas you're suggesting the language that would be, the council would have the flexibility to request reports rather than compelling reports in each subsection. So I think that's the fundamental difference I'm seeing.
So
There's really not any difference. It's that it's in the powers, but now in ours, it was also throughout, which of course was in the others.
Okay, so Article 8 is boards and
I
commissions,
think we're,
and
Yes.
I think we're all,
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page.
so I
We're talking
think
about the
when we
same
get,
thing, saying different things.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably a problem. Nonetheless, let's go back to posting on the website.
Okay.
We're done with that. So I'm going to get the official draft to you, Brian, you're gonna put it together on the website. Is there anything else that we need on that front? You all look at that? Okay. Awesome. Evan, can you help me out with, I know there was a question that we talked about on Sunday that we wanted to move through, rather than posting on the website. That we were voting on and decided, okay,
Oh,
Thursday, I don't remember what it was.
Whether council can pass, it was Brian's suggestion that council, with the language that Kelly put in, Brian probably articulated that, but I remember what it was.
What section?
It was regarding, it was actually the legislative
Yeah.
process. And it
Section
was
7 or 8.
regarding suspending rules. And I think it was.
I think 403,
Yeah.
it's in blue, there wasn't,
Oh, okay,
it
fair.
was in picture.
Alright.
Oh, yeah, there was, because we were talking about, we take out that whole section.
Yeah.
As I attempt to Article 3, council, or Article 4,
Four.
legislative.
Or the-
4.03
Alright.
B, I,
4,
B.
Yeah,
it's
see
the red-
that, see
yeah,
that right?
yeah, there we go.
So,
Right, so the language there reads, council may not dispose with the readings of legislation that substantially pertain to village infrastructure, zoning, and expenditures of more than some number of dollars to be determined. Right, and so the two sides of this is that, business needs to happen, but these are things that we feel are important enough to never allow for the suspending of the rules. And then the conversation pursued that some people think that waiving of the rules and waiving of reading should always be an onerous thing. Right? And then the other side of that is that business needs to happen.
Yes, let's argue about that again.
Well, I don't want to, I don't want to argue
I
about
want to
it.
get thoughts, we want to be able to contribute thoughts.
It was the dollars we had a question about.
Well,
Yeah, well,
but we can come back to the
So, under B, so 4.03 B, we, it was originally at 6 members of council. We talked about taking it down to 5. And then other people wanted to, we kept going back and forth about that. For those who are here that want to make waiving the readings hard, not real easy, would it be possible, is there anybody here that wants that?
To make it hard?
Or but just make it,
was
I want to
Jen-
make it impossible.
Jen and Kelly were the main. ones
Okay,
on that
so,
side. Brian and you were on the other side.
So I wanted art in certain cases.
Right. We kept talking about if we required 6 members of council, to vote on it, what if somebody is, sick or something, just nothing. What I was thinking is, could it be that a supermajority is needed in these, make it hard or nearly impossible to do? And then define a supermajority as one less than the current members of council. So if you had 7 members on council, the supermajority would be 6. If somebody resigned and you only have 6 members of council, the supermajority would be 5. Because we kept talking about people resign, people were, now it wouldn't change it for vacations and being sick, because it's not the people present at the meeting, it's the number of members of council.
So I have a suggestion, because the reason we put this off was because we were tied. We took a vote and we were tied. Let's outline this and let's vote on it and see where we are instead of arguing about it again.
So, but which one are we doing? Are we doing just waiving the readings or waiving the readings in certain circumstances?
So we need to make this as easy as possible. So let's break this down into 2 votes. First of all, let's just maybe 3 votes. Let's do this hard and fast, and we can do this kind of, let's do polar opposites first, see where people stand on that, and then let's break it down from there. So if you don't want council to be able to waive any readings for anything, an ordinance or a resolution, then the opposite for this vote is, under certain circumstances, you would be okay with council waiving readings. And then from there, let's get into the nitty-gritty. If the people who are okay with council waiving the readings in certain circumstances, then we can get to that, and then we can get to waiving readings and passing as an emergency. Are you okay with that?
Let's give it a try, but knowing that we talked about it for an hour.
We argued for a long time.
It's all for every argument. To me, it's the dollar amounts are important.
Right, so if you think that there's a reason, there are legitimate reasons why council should be able to waive the rules, then vote that way. If you don't think there are any reasons, then vote that way.
I forgot, is there something for an emergency, like if there's a legitimate emergency, did we cover that somewhere else?
Okay, there's 2 things that you have to keep in mind. One is that law says that pieces of legislation should have 3 readings on 3 separate days. And so that's the readings part. Once a piece of legislation has been read and passed, if it's an emergency, it takes effect immediately. Like right then, it's done. If it's not an emergency, it doesn't take it, it's not in effect until 30 days after that date. So it's kind of keeping the readings versus when it goes into effect separate.
You said 3 days, does it matter what 3 days?
It doesn't, it can be 3 consecutive days. It can't be all on the same day, but 3
Could be
consecutive days.
11:59 p.m., 12 midnight, and then the next 24 hours?
Yes. On 3 separate days, 3 readings.
I'm sure you thought of that.
We, I don't think we did 3 consecutive days because we couldn't get schedules to work. When we were trying to buy a building, we got as close to 3 consecutive days as we could. I will also note that on the last one of those, we had 100 people here, right?
And one person with a sign outside that said Minerva Park is not an oligarchy. It was awesome. I took that sign, by the way.
Civic engagement at its finest. But, so if council's doing that, right, each one of those meetings would have to be posted. And it's then on the people's, on the back of the people who understand, hey, maybe there's a reason reason why council's meeting 3 days in a row, and we should engage.
But that's not really the issue at the end.
No, it's not.
More whether we should be able to wait.
Does that make sense?
Are we gonna then cut out the dollar amount?
We'll cut it out.
That's-
That's a different-
Does the dollar amount make it a valid reason for the readings?
I think in certain cases, if it's minimal amounts.
Then go that route for this first.
Then for this first vote, this is just the polar opposite.
Okay.
Then, take your position and.
And I didn't have a chance, but my guess is there isn't a charter in Ohio that doesn't allow.
Yes, I'm sure
That
that's
has the
true.
ability to waive.
I'm sure that's true, and I still don't care.
So you have something to say?
I do have something to say, but I was confused everybody. I was trying to research the alternate language. And I found some,
Or when it goes into effect.
for
Good thing we're talking
the thing we're talking about. Well, to me, it seems to me, the big question is notice to the public, okay? And I found language in Johnstown. I'm moving to Johnstown, everybody.
Let the minutes reflect, Shelley is in love with John.
Okay, this, they have it set out very neatly. And by the way, the carve-outs are for the ordinance that go into effect immediately, and Kelly does have those all in our charter right now. So, by effective after 30 days, I really like this. Unless otherwise provided in this charter, all other ordinances shall become effective 30 days after their adoption or any later date specified by council, and specifically include the following: tax increases and any appropriations in excess of 25% of the municipality's annual general fund appropriation, except when in response to a natural or man-made disaster or emergency. Well, that might be emergency. So I called him and said, could you tell me what our municipality's annual general fund appropriation is? And she told me. But she and I got to talking, and if the question is noticed to the population so that people know what's going on, she suggested that maybe we might consider language in here that deals with the agenda of the meetings. And I don't know what she said. She said that the agenda shall be complete 72 hours before the council meeting, and shall have everything, all the ordinance like they do now, attached, things are being taken up, and have noted on the agenda that it's their intention to pass as an emergency. So I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. I don't know if that will help us, but it's a consideration.
I believe we did right that.
Did we?
Something very similar to that.
Well,
I don't remember,
I do have a dollar amount,
but yeah, about the agenda being posted and being completed.
Well, that's,
agenda,
yes,
all that
that's in our charter.
I don't think it was in 72 hours before.
No, this is the notice. Right above the section that, section 403 in our charter, Les Kelly's charter. Prior to the introduction of any legislation, the clerk of council should distribute the copy, place it in places that are, but it says nothing about the agenda. I don't know if this would be the appropriate place, but
So-
that's a consideration. Just out in food for thought, not tied to it.
I'm in section 3, which is council right now.
Okay,
Um,
you should need it for,
no, she's.
I'm looking for
the agenda.
the agenda. So clerk of council.
You control that for agenda.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the word we use.
No, I just thought it was.
Try online. I think it's specified that people
Oh,
online.
that's in the same, that's.
I also think that we did something about
We
meeting
did not
posts.
use the word agenda.
Additionally, if you were talking about the money and spelling out that they can't, these two things cannot take effect for 30 days. I don't know if it's good or bad. I do know that I did not, in any of the charges that I have reviewed, have I seen that waiving rules and, you know, passing an emergency, it's in there. Plus, it's interleaved in out in different sections.
In section 4.21, as far as votes on legislation,
4.2,
yeah,
it only goes to 1.3.
You're formatting it.
I don't know. I also had to open this in Google Docs because I didn't bring the Windows laptop home with me from work.
What's the name of the section? Publication of ordinances and resolutions?
So, yeah, vote required for passage, sorry. But then this is introduction, reading, of public hearings of ordinances and resolutions.
So I think we might be going too far into these though.
Okay,
Let's pretend that it's posted, however,
I actually think your idea
I think it's
forcing council to print their agenda 72 hours.
Oh, and all
That's
of
a
that.
great idea.
but I think it's,
And it can't be amended.
That's a brilliant idea.
That's
That's great.
So-
Somebody else.
so let's go back to the original question before I forget it. It's a long dedication. So let's go back to the original question. We wanted to do straw poll, doesn't count for anything official, but just who is in favor of council being able to waive readings or council never being able to waive readings? That's the two basic questions, right? Yep. Starting with it. Like option A, yes, can waive readings for reasons to be described later.
We just do it, like, straight hands, straight hands.
Okay, all right, yeah, sure.
Waive readings. Okay.
Ability to waive readings.
Correct. We're not doing all those specifics, so now,
But that's not.
so we're not making it never, right? That's, so now
Terrible.
we need to.
Terrible idea, terrible
Yeah,
idea,
because we're still learning.
terrible idea.
This is definitely
And what's your dream here?
So what Paul was just about to say was that this is a huge hot button issue in the village of Minerva Park. In fact, this is so bad, I've heard people that I have heard people that I 99.9% of the time disagree with about everything say it. And people that 99.9% of the time I agree with everything about say it. That the tendency, and it's true, the tendency for Minerva Park Council is to waive readings and pass legislation quickly. And I just want to say, one thing, and the one council member who ran a huge portion of his platform was, I'm never going to allow council to waive readings and pass things as an emergency. Council's system is so broken that even he sits at council meetings and votes to waive readings and pass legislation as an emergency regularly.
I was just gonna jump in and say two things. I forgot to the audio only records to mention that Eric Fisher has joined us. Welcome, sir. And then I saw you raise your hand, but I raised mine first. Something that we brought up, because that is historically something that the village of Minerva Park does in their current and recent memory, is waive readings for things like hiring police officers or emergency things that are perhaps not what we would normally see as emergency.
Changes in appropriation.
Changes in
And then
appropriation.
that doesn't even need to be an emergency, because it takes effect.
What we talked about in the meeting Sunday morning was whether this is a need or a result of inefficient planning causing not being able to do the readings because it just wasn't planned.
And to be fair, it's both. To be fair, this happens for both reasons. Really poor planning, and also because it needs to be done sometimes. I mean, sometimes Minerva Park the council doesn't receive stuff that they need to receive in a timely fashion from other entities, and they have to pass stuff as an emergency. They have to waive readings to get things going. That happens.
So,
And also, many times, I have seen council members say, I just got this tonight, and you want to waive readings and pass it, and I haven't even read it. And Pam will tell you, yes, that happens.
So that being said, we've already voted for it to happen. So let's do it.
Let's now qualify.
so
Correct.
I do just want to say that I did raise my hand first, but Eric raised a second, so Eric.
Well, if you're going to, I'm just gonna say you all have voted to move forward with the ability to vote for an emergency, to have one there. It's how you designate it
No,
later.
no, we're not talking about emergency, we're only talking about waiving readings.
Wait, sorry, waiving readings, apologize. So it does come up, it is, what I was gonna say, not having it will hamstring your village for a lot of reasons. And I think that's what most of you realize. You do need to designate what you feel would restrict it.
And I want them hamstring.
Yeah, but understood, you do, but to conduct professional business in the environment that we're in under state law and things that the village will have to do, you know, whether it's a road project, whether it's interest rates, whether it's an economic development project, or whether it's because staff broke down and forgot something, but it was important enough maybe to MI or someone else, and they're asking for an emergency. Now, council pushes back, you know, in fairness, when they get something and they're not happy about it. And I will fully admit that I have done it in multiple municipality jurisdictions. You just sometimes under the gun, the staff, you bring something forward and say, we'd like to have this approved by emergency, but it's not necessary. It's not, and I understand if you don't want to. And it's up to council's comfortable. A lot of times they won't do it. You know, all we can do is ask.
Well,
so-
sitting here as the charter commission, we had to have our request for legal counsel this year without rereadings. I think we all agree that sometimes these things happen, and there is a time needed for it. Since we all.
I don't agree, but that's okay, it doesn't matter.
All right, so we agree that we need,
It doesn't matter, you got your vote.
yeah, my
You all have a
majority.
vote.
My fear is, I just want to say this, my fear is that if we don't stop this process somehow or seriously curtail it, this charter will fail. It will not be passed.
We can't make it difficult to do.
So let's.
We better make it really, really
We'll
difficult.
see where everybody votes.
If we don't make it impossible, we better make it
We talked
near
about this-
impossible.
Talked about this for an hour, we already talked about it for a half hour. So can we move forward with what you suggested and vote on the various?
Yeah.
steps? Thank you.
What specifics did you want to throw out first? But I know you have some in mind, so rather than you make. So yeah, let's talk about what we,
So now-
we need to waive reading.
Well, now it sounds like, we've got to 403B, where we're gonna keep that in there. Each ordinance shall be read by title only on 3 separate days unless this requirement is dispensed, by vote. And now we just need to decide, is it 5, is it 6, is it whatever it is.
All right. We also added resolution into there.
We did each ordinance resolution, yes.
Okay, so what are the thoughts of the group on, okay, so they can vote to waive readings. How many need to agree? How hard do you want to make that? And I'm gonna ask some people to go on this. Linda, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that we should make this hard as much as we can, and so I would say 6.
Okay.
So I would say our two choices should be either 5 or 7, because trying to throw extra numbers in there doesn't make sense, because it's 5 across the board, so I would say 7, and unanimous.
Okay, so unanimous or matching every other super.
Exactly.
Charter, just for,
It should be one or the other, I would say.
okay. Dick, what are your thoughts?
Super majority.
Is that 5 or 7? Or
Well,
six?
we haven't defined it yet.
We've defined supermajority as 5 members of council in other places.
Okay, so that, okay. Paul, what are your thoughts?
I kind of like the idea of the 7 because if it's it's really the case of you need to hire another police officer, everybody should be unanimous anyway. So why would you want, I don't know, I just think that 7 makes sense, it makes it harder, but then there should be a lot of controversy with the item.
But if somebody resigns,
They still have.
No, that, it
I
would
don't
not
mean
be
seven.
seven people.
I don't mean
Unanimous.
I mean the unanimous.
So all of the members
Members.
like of the current council. Okay, so we need to say it that
To me,
way.
it should be stuff that's not.
Because even if two members of council, and they have done that, both would resign at exactly the same time, then you would still want
Five.
the majority of the member, no, not the majority, all of the members.
If there's an
Correct
interest
members.
rate or financial gain or financial loss, or hiring a police officer to replace somebody, why would you not vote for that? And if you did,
We're in a position where we're down to 4.
But again, we're saying.
Well, there should be a floor somewhere, but.
vote unanimous.
Well, it's something, isn't there?
We're not creating
Council can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I put in number 7. So that it can never be done.
I think it's a dangerous position to get us into the situation where one person can block the vote.
Yeah.
That's, we've done that with the veto.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you go through all this and then the mayor just vetoes.
But then the council has another.
That's right.
Well, that's true.
But here, a single member who's irate can stop necessary legislation.
But only to the extent that, I mean, it hasn't, it has, gonna have 3 readings.
Yeah.
You like to wait around.
Yeah, it's not gonna be stopped. It's simply gonna be forced to be done the way it's supposed to be done.
So, right, what do you got?
I think that having 5 members of council agree to waive readings gives us enough oversight in the cases when a contract has to be signed. A decision has to be made immediately in order for professional business planning to continue. There was a mosquito. I don't think I got it, but I tried. And then if we don't give the council the ability to move forward in a professional capacity, then we are putting our village at risk of being considered an just unprofessional organization that cannot be worked with by contractors.
Nina.
I mean, I'll fight.
Yeah, you know, I don't have the same historical knowledge about the pattern related to this. So it makes it difficult to give a thoughtful and meaningful piece of insight and contribution. I always like to lean towards believing that intelligent adults that are volunteering to do this with virtually no payment will make sensible decisions. But it sounds to me like there's a historical precedent where that hasn't been true. And so,
You know, it's been true in 80, 90, 95% of the time, but there's every now and then an issue that pushes people's buttons.
but
And
the
then that's
truth of the
when
matter is, can we ever really get around that? I mean, there's always the potential for some, wild hair. You can't predict that. And I don't know, the other thing, I'll give you an answer here in a minute. The other thing I'm thinking about is, operationalizing, I mean, it seems to me that part of what makes this easy or available is there hasn't been enough operationalizing of under what circumstances that this is possible. It's a little vague, and I think there's probably a good reason for it to be vague, but maybe we have to tighten that language up a little bit and make it a little less vague. This doesn't have to be a one only thing. Teeth can be put into this in more than one way. And operationalizing that language seems to me to be part of that. I mean, how do you get around the fact that there's for all kinds of reasons, sometimes the planning didn't happen the way it was supposed to. I mean, how can you get around that?
The thing about it is that my experience has been different than Pam's. I
I have found that often this comes down to a lack of planning. For a lot of, my opinion is the majority of this comes down to a lack of planning. There are legitimate times when the village does get stuff late and they need to move on it immediately. Those times are very rare. Most of the time, this is an extreme lack of planning.
But that's why we're doing an administrator.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I recognize that. I'm just not sure that this pattern will be broken very easily. But the other thing is that, never mind.
No, I'm trying to get track.
No, go ahead.
Sid had something.
Yes, I agree, that very possibly, and we've had it in the past, someone on the board vote no for everything.
We have had that.
And when we put unanimous in there, it's not good. We have to give some
We have had that.
for
Yeah.
someone
had
who would
that.
get voted in, who would just start
Right.
to stop everything. We don't want to do
And
that.
that will happen again, and I will concede that point. You're
So-
right
so
about
the
that.
unanimous thing, maybe too much.
You're right about that.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause, let Nita finish where she never actually committed. I'm gonna make
I'm going to.
I think it's two things. I think we should start looking hard at operationalizing a few things a little more specifically, and I say 5. That's a compromise.
And then Soraya, I'm gonna ask your opinion, we also haven't had 2 council members present, I just want to get there.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment very quickly. I worked on a lot of volunteer projects over the years, and I think hiccups in planning is just something you have to expect when essentially our council members are volunteering their time, but we need to not also hamstring them. That's all I had to say on that.
And I asked before I put you on the spot, and I don't want to do that without you volunteering, but you guys are the ones who both ways you're going to have to deal with this. What input can you give us that would help us kind of figure it out? We agree, I don't remember who came in, I'm sorry, Nate is with us as well. We agree that there are legitimate times when wages have to be, readings have to be waived. Thank you so much, I was really stuck. Anyways, we agree on that. So now what we're trying to kind of tease out is where's the threshold where it's not so easy to come practice, but it's not so hard we're hamstringing our own village and cutting off our noses by our things. So as people who work in this situation, you don't have to be waive these things or not. What's your input? What are your thoughts?
A couple people said exactly what I was expecting to hear. Paul said, make it as difficult as possible, but when it comes to a police officer or anything around there, it needs to be done. So of course, we're all going to agree. There's not gonna be any reason, and if there is a reason, again, then maybe it shouldn't be done. But there is a lack of planning. I mean, there's no, it happens with, like she said, volunteers. But it's not just us, that's the other problem. I think a lot of people say, well, council, they just keep waiving readings and they do all of this. But you also have to look at, it was just brought to our attention.
A lot of times we're at the end point of a process.
Right.
And some of the other hangups we're attempting to address by having an administrator, professional manager who hopefully is going to be in charge of that instead of leaving it to volunteers who are trying to do this on top of their regular lives and jobs, right?
Well, the people that are actually in charge of it right now are not volunteers.
That's right.
Thank you. That's the part that I'm
That's exactly
always forgetting. I'm not gonna get into that, so this is not why you put me on the spot. So, no, the people that bring it to us are typically not volunteers. It's something that, but it's not, again, it's not someone's specific fault. I mean, Inline can bring a project that we need it done right away. And that's something, again, that's gonna go away
Right.
in a very short amount of time. We were just brought something to our attention about, the swimming pool grants. Well, if we don't move, we're gonna miss the deadline. Now, is it because we didn't plan? We've been talking about it, but we are 6 months in advance. I mean, we are 6 months in advance, so you think that's ample time, but if we don't get this done in the next 30 days, we're gonna miss, and then we have to go to 2020. So our ample planning of 6 months in advance is still a good significant amount, but we're gonna miss the deadline if we don't pass the, waive readings and all of that kind of stuff to move forward for a grant.
So let me ask, because we all agree that waiving readings is thing that has to happen, human error or just real life. But where, right, either way, it's gonna happen. To waive the readings, we talked about, is it 5, 6, 7, a supermajority, everybody unanimous? What is your thoughts about that?
It needs to be supermajority, whether it's 5, 6, or 7, she makes a valid point.
Unanimous or?
But could not be a hinge, right?
So
No, I think
if I were to pick one, I would pick 5 for 2 reasons. One, I think he makes an excellent point that you're already using 5 in other places. And I think that having different rules on different occasions is confusing to what amounts to a volunteer organization. It's confusing, frankly, to a professional organization. And I also think that unanimous can be unworkable. Let's take the pool example. Let's say you have one guy on the council who's there because he hates the pool and he thinks that the pool is an expenditure that this village should not be making.
Good point.
There are people on the council who, one thing or another is just their thing that they do not care about. And if they decide that we shouldn't get that grant because we shouldn't have a pool anyway, because that's something villages shouldn't have, then that one vote could ruin that entire thing for us in this case, a really unreasonable way. And I think there's a case for almost everything on that. So I'd be against unanimous because there's always somebody.
If that were the case, couldn't you just have a special meeting? Then have three meetings within a week?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And we saw it happen last year. So yes, that would be your other options, is if it was that important to everybody else. As a council person right now, I would be in favor of that. So again, there's not, I think one of the points that she made, you have to make this to where it's gonna be passable through the rest of this process. So, you guys, that's where your guys' balancing. I don't think anybody's wrong between 5 or 7. It's just, what do you think the rest of the village is gonna do? Like for me, yes, you can add additional meetings. There's a will, there's a way. If you really want something done, it's gonna happen. If we have to have it 3 days in a row, we will. We have, they did.
If we've agreed, or the majority is saying 5, are we thinking about hopefully putting some restrictions on that? Well, we love that, right?
Once we got past that, the fact that we would have meetings, we could decide if there are instances where it should be, right?
25% of the comprehension of whatever, monitoring. Okay, so any other thoughts on, just purely on the number that we're talking about waive readings? All right. Show of hands, time, remember?
5 or 7.
So everybody for 5. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's clearly more than.
I got the account.
12.
So there's 2 minutes, so there's 14 of us here.
There are 3.
Eddie,
Oh,
and I.
sorry, you were blocked out by my
If we're on that elimination of the abstains and
Yes.
or count the other option of 7, take account for 7.
You know what the count for 7 is.
So this would be.
We got to do it.
Oh,
Might be an actual meeting.
All right, so all in favor of making this the same throughout, 5 makes the waiver reading, or 2 readings? All in favor? I'm sorry, the vote we just did by hand, so 5 is the number we need to waive the readings.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? There's a lot of comments.
Yes. Opposed?
Any I appreciate it, so you can stop. All right, so 5 it is. Which brings us to the next points. What exclusions do we want to have? Do we want to have monetary exclusions? So this is
for a long-term charter, I think if you were going to do exclusions, it should be based on some kind of percentage.
What would 25% of the operating budget be?
Okay.
According to our fiscal officer, our annual general fund appropriation this year, 2,146,100.
Is that all this money going to pay for $4 million dam we have to pay for?
Again, that's general fund appropriations, so no, that's not the detail.
I think that's what they were saying, this is how it's gonna take to run.
Do we just have that out, general fund?
That was the language used, so it's general fund appropriations.
I'm interested in what you think.
I think that number is really high,
I agree.
right? So what?
So shall we-
So then, well, at 25%, that's.
You can say what?
Oh, yeah. So-
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I didn't understand the answer, I understand a lot of clarifying questions about the original answer, what was the answer?
Yeah.
2,146,100.
And that's,
The annual, well, it's the annual appropriation from the general fund.
okay, so we were looking at a percentage of that.
$500,000.
Would be a quarter, right? So I think that's far too high.
Yeah,
Far too high, right? I mean.
Well, if you pick a number, and then it's the two and a half closest to that, and that's what I'm saying.
Right, and I was just giving the language, not advocating.
So.
Well, so
100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 200,000.
I would say 10%.
So I would say 5.
Yeah, I would say 5. Yeah, I'm more like 2, but I don't think that'll fly. Okay, I'm gonna stick with 2%. Because I really don't want them to be able to do this at all.
So you're saying that they can't do it, if it's over $40,000.
That's, I would prefer it if they can't do it if it's over $20,000.
Okay, so
Honestly.
I would be more inclined to do like 100,000 to HR, hiring somebody. I wouldn't be opposed to hiring somebody. If you did 100,000, you might cover police chief, all that.
Well-
75 to 100.
I don't know why we can't do both. I don't know why.
Let's not gonna get an Ohio Public Works, grant for, to do a
I still
project
don't care.
that for.
I still don't care. But,
And then there's a deadline. And then there's a deadline. You have, they send you the paperwork and they say that you gotta give us a yes or no by.
Well, I don't really understand that. They give you some money.
No, sometimes they give us a low interest loan. So, it's a loan, we have to pay it back, but it might be, very, very, very low.
Yeah.
So what would you have to do at that point if it was above what we did in the mountains?
Well, it's gonna be about
We
5.
have 3 readings, right? We have 3 meetings, right? I mean, that's.
3 days.
So, I don't know why we can't do both things though. I don't know why we can't write in if it's a person that we're hiring that we need.
I want to keep
We
it
can talk
simple.
about that. I don't disagree with you. I feel the HR thing you're gonna have to have now. But then it's HR, then it's like an interest rate, and it's like a grant.
The trash contract is over $100,000.
No, it's not.
Oh, that's right, we used to.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Never mind.
It used to be.
Well, if you get too much into the stuff, where do you stop? I mean, I don't know.
I think that you also run the risk that if you add more detail, you give people more things to argue with and say, well, this is HR. Versus if it's a flat percent, I don't care what it is, it's just a flat
Based on
percent.
everything, how do you do that 10%?
Okay, so I would jump.
So,
It's hard.
one, I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds on this, but 2, Eric was just telling me that the infrastructure projects are actually the ones where we're going to be most likely to need to waive readings because they're often the ones that are on timelines and then also have the highest budgets. Did I explain that correctly?
Right.
Okay. So, I'm sorry.
Say it again.
Go ahead.
So essentially, the problem is your budget is small. I mean, in all honesty, it's $2 million is small comparatively, but that's what you got to work with. So 10% is a mere $200,000, right? 5% of 100,000. You may as well just make it 1.1% in that case. I mean, I'm just telling you that any project of any need to the village is mostly going to be infrastructure. Those are your most important ones, whether it's sewers, storm sewer, curbs, pathways. Any of those projects are going to break 50,000 without a sweat, right? And so any of those projects may need to be waived at some point. It could be for the grant, it could be for, how it's going to be interpreted, basically, right? So they're going to go with the strictest interpretation. So anything related to the project is simply not going to be allowed to be waived, but there may be it could be bonding, right? It could be anything related to the project. So I would just urge caution, be reasonable. You may just want to exempt infrastructure because you don't want to tie the hands of your village over the next few years.
I have big concerns with infrastructure because those could be huge payments, which we are gonna stop paying the bills for. And if somebody in power,
Right there.
by the village,
Right
has not done their planning, if I don't do my cash planning and my budget in my house, nobody comes and bails me out and says, "Oh, well, we're gonna take your real estate away from." I have a big problem with that.
I think that we're getting away from the idea that we're not saying it's impossible, we're saying you can't waive the readings. So if it's not, I know it does.
I would.
So then, to your point, if it's that much money, it's important enough not to waive readings for the village. It should also have planning, but also, if to your point, Eric, if it's something that has to happen because it's grant or what have you, we have a mechanism as an escape hatch. You have your emergency meetings, you have your 3 readings, you make it happen with the truth. So I think that what we need to remember is we're writing a charter for people who want to have, who are gonna vote for this. What are they gonna want to vote for? Are they gonna want to vote for something that just lets the same problems go on, or just looks like it has addressed the concerns? Because
So we talked about having the general fund be the basis for this percentage. But we also know that down the road, when we get TIF money, there will be big ticket items. And that's not gonna be paid for out of the general fund, and maybe different funds that are set up for capital improvement. You can't just be making the council members just show up night after, 3 times when there's plenty of money. The TIF is for infrastructure, and
Yeah, actually, Kim, I feel like we can make them do that, because I don't trust either the council process or the mayoral process here, and I want them to have to follow the rules.
so we have an administrator who do this.
Maybe, we still don't know yet. Yes, hopefully, that's gonna solve a lot of this planning situation that's out of control, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, I'm gonna put it out there that I would like to have meaningful discussion, not going back and forth on the same points.
I think we're hearing from outliers.
I think we are.
Yeah.
Don't insult either of you. You don't make very compelling arguments, but I think we're hearing from
No, I
outliers.
think
I think it's both component arguments, but I don't think they're contributing anything to the conversation. So I would like to keep the conversation moving instead of stagnant. Just putting it out there. Eric has something to say as well.
Just a final point on controls. I think one of the major points of control, so everybody's on the same page. I know Kim Polly was in here, but I don't know how deep she got into things like bonding and limits and things of that nature. So those, right now, you have bonded limits, as to what you can do without going to the voters and what you can do. So basically, and you have to go to the voters over a certain amount. So when you get into infrastructure projects here, you have a limit to all your bonding. I think it's about 1.8 million right now. That includes everything, right? So you can't just bond up to 1.8 each time. It's your total, and you're not anywhere near that. I'm just saying that that's one point of control, because as you get into a large project, once you get into your TIF money, what you're going to end up doing, so you understand that once you get beyond MI in a few years, and there's going to be a large TIF number coming in over the next, let's just say 23 years, that money can be bonded by your council. Now, if it's large enough from a project standpoint, let's say you got to redo the whole Minerva Lake Road and infrastructure, it's going to be several $1 million easy, right? That's going to end up going to voters anyways. So I just want to point that out as a control standpoint.
Because is it based on the assessed value of the
It is assessed,
village?
yeah, it's assessed on a percent, just from a general standpoint, it's assessed on the percentage of your total general fund health at any point in time. And so right now, roughly speaking, it's 1.8 mil, and then it's all of the bonds up to that point. But any major project will require going to the voters regardless. You can't piecemeal, it's the same project.
And on that point, we have the opportunity to change the way we do that.
Sure, you do.
That's how it's done now.
When you're saying bonds,
So-
you're meaning and bonds appreciate.
Correct. Municipal.
Readings can be waived as criteria are met. We talked about the percentage of the general operating budget. Are there any other thoughts or contributions as far as what kind of gap or whatever you might want to put on that to limit it?
I would like to not see waiver of readings if there's been poor planning on someone else's part, whether that be the administrator, whether it be the mayor, whether it be our zoning plan. I'm not pointing to the current one, but if the reason council is doing it is because they're getting information back at the last minute, or there's delay in getting it back, and they're making poor decisions, those council members represent me. And I don't appreciate that my council members who take their time and effort to come don't have information, and therefore they have to waive a reading. I don't like that.
So, how would we legislate that?
I don't know, because now I'm moving back to, take my vote away, and I'll say you never waive a reading. Because we have a history here of things getting passed.
I think to her
People are
point,
upset.
the whole village, this has been an issue, and it's difficult, and I think I'll fix it.
How I'm looking at this is from a selling perspective, because we decided for the interest of government, they need to be able to waive readings, but this waiver of readings is a hot point issue, so what can we sell for people that are required to say, hey, we've done something to make it harder for them to do this, stuff that you don't like, but they still need to do government. And 5 minutes is our safety.
A much lower dollar amount
That could be a concession.
and very specific.
I think that's the concession, is, something like 5 or 10%, a low percentage, because we decided that 5 people could waive it, so we have to set a lower threshold.
So does anybody think it should be higher than 10%?
Yes,
Okay, so Karen does.
I do.
Okay, so.
I do not want to make it untenable for contractors to work with our village council.
Can we maybe do some straw votes on percentages?
I want to pause on that and address kind of what you said, Sarai. I agree, but on the other hand, I also don't know that 3 readings having to be read makes it impossible for contractors to do business with us if we do it right. I don't want to legislate outliers. I don't want to legislate outliers, and I don't want to legislate to do it the wrong way. I want us to be careful of that. Let's legislate how we want this to be, not how we think it has to be, because nothing will ever work right.
And I think that we are legislating for outliers by saying that they can't waive it for $100,000 or, 5% or whatever. I think we are actually legislating for outliers.
I think that maybe I get that, that you could feel that way, but I want to bring you back to what Tiffany said when she said a lot of the poor planning has nothing to do with volunteers. It's people who are paid to do this who don't do it correctly. I know.
So I can say, one thing that I wanted to say for a while, I've had flagged, because I've been a little bit multitasking, trying to figure out how to post something on the website. But what I want to say is that while historically we have seen issues with waiving readings, I think if you look over the last 3 to 4 years, that has been much less of a problem. I also think that it would be our best option to look at times when waiving readings doesn't really matter and allow it in those, right? And find the things that it matters the most and disallow it in those. That's the discussion that we haven't
Doing the money
Right, instead of doing like, what are the issues that we think, because the purpose of readings is notice. The purpose of readings is giving people the opportunity to come in here, hear what's going on, and speak their grievance to council, right? Or support the council.
That's why it's so important.
And that's why it's important. And what are those things that it is important that we get people in? So when I started all this problem, the language I had worked on was infrastructure, because we have seen work on roads cause problems, because people will say, I didn't get a chance. If we force 3 readings on road work, right? Even if it has to be 3 consecutive days and it is a terrible burden on council people, I apologize, but that is, in my opinion, an opportunity to say, look, we posted 3 meetings, we read it, we begged people to opine on this, we made a decision, right? Zoning is another one that we included in there,
I can say.
right, and that's another, the same thing, right? A zoning change is drastically impactful on the people of the village, or can be drastically impactful, right? The other one, an expenditure of X dollar amount, again, to Deb's point, right? We want to make sure that funds are being spent wisely, right? That threshold is something that we can continue to argue about, but probably, in my opinion, anything less than $100,000 is, as Eric said, chump change. I don't know that we have many contracts more than $100,000, and if we do, it's for big projects, right? Which are probably worth inconveniencing council people to 3 meetings, in my opinion.
So you're saying 5%, right?
Yeah, and that is because, again, I was the one who asked for this language to be put in. That's my perspective. And that's kind of what I feel like we've argued about it now, an hour on Saturday, an hour today. Please just agree with me.
Well, the reason we took it out though was because anyone could lawyer and argue that this is or is not in this category or in this category, and so that's, I think, why we took
So
it out.
that we can discuss what infrastructure means and try to improve that language. We can discuss, I don't think there's gonna be any lawyering of what zoning is or isn't. I don't think there's any expenditure of more than X dollars can be lawyered this way or that, right? So infrastructure is going to be lawyering, and I would offer to break infrastructure down to road construction, storm or sanitary sewer work, yeah, and water line. That's what and I would love to say facilities, but I think that's too broad.
What about sidewalks?
Well, that's whole.
Okay.
But anything like infrastructure.
The way I just, not the way I just
But
redefined
if
it.
you,
I don't see that. That's not what I was aiming at when I said infrastructure.
it was like people digging up your front yard and that kind of.
Right, people digging up a front yard, people changing a road, traffic pattern, those kinds of things. Right, the project that is bound to happen at Maplewood and Cleveland, right, there will be legislation passed to get that project going, and people need 3 bites of the apple to go and speak their piece.
What's happening at Edgewood?
The road's falling apart.
Yeah, the road's falling apart up there, so.
Yeah.
I think they just heard they're pushing that out another year to 2020, but.
Stop going down that road. Back to Charlie.
See, they're playing it.
Traffic.
You're gonna prove it right back to Charlie.
All right, one more, Shelley.
I just want to say that, this language, I do think that this language that Brian's put in here is clearer than trying to say 25% or whatever. I mean, I think that the citizens of the village will see that and think that we try to control.
So we also are gonna have, we've got 10 minutes before we move on to the topic, but we're going to have another town hall. Do we want to
Ah,
And here's what we're thinking. And mention this and all in there, no, at the end of the day.
But it might be approved by then, and then people can read it. and see.
I've got news for you. If we approve this and it goes up on the website, it's gonna be known.
Right.
And you're gonna talk about it at the next town hall meeting with the charter, whether you want to or not. So just sum that up.
And I want
That's
it.
the point.
But I can live with what Brian has proposed. That there will be a review and, a charter review in the future.
So,
The only part of that wording I don't like is the X dollars. I prefer that to be a percentage.
yeah, so we changed X dollars to, right, when I said 100,000 or 200,000, that was 5%. An expenditure.
Oh, that's 10%.
Oh, yeah, 10.
Oh,
Fine, 2.5 million is 5,000.
Oh, 500,000,
Okay,
okay,
so I'm
sorry.
saying 5%, so I would change that
Yeah.
to read, and expenditures of more than 5% of the annual general fund appropriations.
Yes.
I have one last question on that screen. And to my life knowledge, the TIF goes away for X amount of years to pay for the dam. Then it comes into the general budget, is that correct?
So the TIF is a whole different fund, and the TIF, I believe if I recall right, worded as a 30-year TIF.
That is correct.
Right, so those funds, right, the first 4 million of those funds come in and they go out to MI. All the rest stays in a TIF fund and it can only be spent for capital improvement infrastructure type projects, right? That are for the betterment of the village or the TIF zone, which is defined as the entirety.
That TIF money will never be included in the general operating. budget.
However,
you're not
wait, if I may, I didn't say general funds dollars. I said an expenditure of more than 5% of the annual
We're
general
just using
fund
that for the
appropriation.
marker of.
It can be TIF dollars, as long as it's more than 5% of the general fund.
Right, so, but my question was, you've never combined the TIF funds ever with the general operating fund, so then 5 years down the road, now you have a
$5 million.
No,
right, a large budget that you're saying of 5%.
no.
Okay,
Oh, no, no.
Okay,
That's not appropriate.
okay.
So if I may, I feel like we can sell this to the village mainly because the issue, at least as Jen articulated, was the purchase of the building, right? That was the major hot button issue.
Oh,
And that
no,
would-
no, 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 no.
I'm going to finish, and that would not have flown under these rules at all.
No, yes, it would have. Yes, it still would have,
They have
Is it
because
water line work?
there was even more that happened to get the building done.
But this, they would have not, they wouldn't have allowed to waive the reading.
So first off, we never wait.
They did not waive the reading.
Well, I mean, there's nothing we can put in there to not have them be on precinct that either thing. I guess we could, but.
No, but it is a frame of reference.
If I can try to restate Jen's issue, and if I'm here correctly, please tell me if I'm wrong, is that she wants 3 readings, because historically, for all kinds of reasons, it doesn't happen, which means that people don't get their 3 bites of the apple. But,
This doesn't have anything to do with the building.
okay, no, but I can tell you that, there are those things that will, it's more important for some things and less important for others.
Yes, and that is
And
true, and
that's-
I have conceded that point, I
Yeah.
conceded the point
And
that
so,
both things are true.
yeah, so that's why,
Some things
that's
have to
why
be
I,
passed as an emergency.
exactly, and that's why I think that the slice out as we've discussed, I think works very well. It isolates the things that are the most important.
So I move that Brian's language, as written, currently articulated, the 5% of the annual general fund, the carve outs for water line work, zoning, and construction. Be approved.
I second it.
All in favor?
So I'm not sure what the language is right now, guys, because I haven't had a chance to write it out.
It's recorded. It's recorded.
We need the language.
Yeah, so
Wait, so what's that? That's all right.
we're gonna back, can we please back up?
Yes.
I will type out the language.
Okay, so it is, we're gonna start, here, I'll just read it, but we're gonna, the council may not dispense with the readings of legislation that we're gonna take it of substantial, we're gonna just leave as pertains to village waterworks, zoning, and expenditures of more than 5% of the annual general fund appropriations.
Waterworks, zoning, and expenditures.
Waterworks?
I don't know, do we not like that? I just thought that was an easier way to say sewer.
No, to me, it sounds like water.
Okay, sure, so then let's go back to waterworks. We can say village sewer
And water.
and water.
Storm sanitary.
Okay, so sewer.
Yes, spell it out.
And
Sanitary
And storm,
and storm
and water lines.
and water lines.
And streets.
yeah.
Now, didn't you have roads in there?
You are correct.
Yes, he did.
Sewer, water lines, right, and then in the next zoning, road construction.
The driveway.
And then expenditures of
Yeah, and expenditure that's.
More than,
5%.
so we haven't actually agreed on a percentage yet. I'm going to force a vote on that.
If it's in writing, we vote on that.
We've already agreed on 5%.
Well,
We
I'll,
haven't agreed on
we can go back and discuss the percent.
I just want the vote, I want people to raise their hands because I want to be able to vote no.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of that percentage of the operating budget in this language sheet? 5. Being 5, all in favor?
I don't think I'm gonna get more.
I don't even know that I was. Any, all opposed?
I actually wanted to be
10%. You're either oppose or abstain.
Well,
Either oppose or abstain.
I'm going to abstain then.
Okay, so 1 abstain.
2 abstentions and 1 no.
I'm not sure. I need more time.
How about
It's
that?
been long enough, but I still need more time.
I'm not enough reading.
Yeah, we're only number 2.
Can I bring up something
Yes.
from last week?
Yes. You have 3 minutes, maybe.
I don't think it's that big a deal, but it was to me, kind of felt like a week. There was some language that we had, I don't remember exactly where it was, where we said that the mayor was not allowed to speak to the people that report to the administrator.
Yeah, let's finish.
Sorry, I thought you were typing.
You're right.
No more than, so we just agreed on 5%,
Okay, so we're agreeing on 5%.
right?
Okay.
Right, I think that's what just happened. Of the annual,
General fund appropriations.
I can't remember which order it's supposed to read.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think so.
It's 5, and that's number 5.
The
General. Pardon, annual
Oh, sorry, yeah, annual
general fund.
appropriations.
Okay. Anything else that you want me to add to that language? Anything else that we should add to that language?
To be clear, should we?
Yeah, that's the language that we.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the language that we're voting on.
Okay,
So, everybody ready to vote on that language?
Yes.
yes,
Do you want to read it one more time, just make sure that we're all,
yeah,
no, time?
sure. So the council may not dispense with the readings of legislation that pertains to village sewer, sanitary and storm, water lines, zoning, road construction, and expenditures of more than 5% of the annual general fund appropriations.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
and abstains.
One abstention. Got
And I understand this is, I mean, we'll go back over, we make other changes.
No.
No, this is it. This is
We're
it.
not, we're not gonna review all this and all.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, if everybody comes to our senses, we decide to make it.
All right, so that's done, Kelly. Speedy updated, that's right.
Yeah.
I will now.
Compromise.
Oh, you
Mr.
have another item where you.
Real quick, we had mentioned last Thursday, there hasn't, there was language that said the mayor could essentially get into trouble if she spoke to the subordinates of the administrator. So she was not allowed to directly contact the administrator.
It was, she couldn't direct them, she could talk to them.
All right,
She couldn't get any kind of.
can we please say they? Because we're not talking about the current mayor, we're talking about mayors in the future. Sorry, the mayor.
The mayor, the position of mayor, let me get that straight, the position of mayor is not allowed to direct the employees of the administrator. We had some
We can only
language.
have one law, right?
Yeah, but then we also said that if something happened to the administrator during on vacation, the mayor would be, the position of mayor would be the backup.
We said that they could back up.
No,
That
that's what we left.
that the administrative, the language that we had, and I think Sarai is looking for it, as I recall it, so.
I believe it says powers and duties.
Yeah, I believe so. The
Yeah.
way that we wrote it was that if the administrator was going to have a temporary absence, they could appoint a temporary administrator. And we allowed that to be any department head or the mayor.
I thought Kelly specifically said, he didn't like that idea, and Mel kind of said, well.
So this is the language that we have. All right, mayor and council relationship to administrator. Except as otherwise provided in this charter and for personnel appointed by the mayor or council, the mayor, council, and council members shall manage the administrative employees solely through the village administrator. The mayor, council, and council members shall not give orders to any subordinate of the village administrator, either publicly or privately. The mayor or any council members may be found guilty of malfeasance in office for a violation of any of the provisions of this section. I believe it is section, the second section on there that people have been having problems with. But we're getting.
You left it actually, Kelly was happy with the wording because we changed it to manage, so the mayor can't manage anyone or the administrator.
It was
They can't, they can't deal with
My point was,
So the-
what happened when
We're
the
gonna get there.
administrator goes away?
Hold on, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
One more section, she has it read.
Okay.
So the next section says, the village administrator may designate by letter filed with the village clerk, the mayor or any qualified division head or department director of the village to perform the village administrator's duties during the village administrator's temporary absence or disability.
Just in general,
So,
I think it's kind of silly, even though I don't know that I like the whole thing as it's written anyway, because I think I better remember this one. It's kind of silly to say in one sentence, you have malfeasance if you managed somebody, and then the next sentence, you can be designated that person, and now you're given that authority. I just thought that was
you
silly.
see,
So I'd rather give you,
different contradictory.
I think it's contradictory.
So I think that it would not be contradictory if we were to remove B. Just across the board, remove that highlighted section.
Or you could say something.
No, we are not.
I'm not keen on that, but Eric, what's your feedback?
I just wanted to say from a staff standpoint that, yes, his point is valid. I would be careful there. Typically in these situations, if you don't want the mayor to jump in, you got to be careful because usually in almost every case I've existed under or seen, the administrator or manager simply designates the full-time department head, whether that's your police chief or your finance director, to handle those administrative items on site. It would be, that would be problematic. That would concur.
So I think that we need to take out 605, something in 605 is what you're struggling with.
We need to take
Yeah,
out the
that's
mayor.
exactly right.
We need to remove the mayor.
Hold on, let's call speak.
My only point was, whoever you designate to be the head while you're gone, you cannot say in a previous sentence that they're not allowed to speak to the persons you're trying to manage. That's my only point.
Yes, that sounds very, very valid. I think that we need to revisit this particular point under mayor and council relationship to administrator. I don't have a problem with the previous sentence. I do have a problem with those two sentences.
I think that is a great point for us to discuss at a later meeting, because we only have 20 minutes.
Right, and a quick answer to that, to fix your problem, let's say, as you say, except as provided for in section 4.04A. So that would take
You
care
can
of.
say that, it just seems,
Like increase the purpose.
it just seems silly. In one sentence, you're literally saying malfeasance.
Right.
And then when you go to town, oh,
Yes,
That's why I said.
agree, it's something we should talk about later. So,
so,
I added a note for Kelly. Thank you.
and then you, and then the minutes, so we'll come back to that one later. Okay, so the other point I wanted to come to is not anything on the screen, but we do have a meeting coming up, the town hall, we'll do it once, I don't do it again. We need to be clear on our timeline. We need to know when we need to get the information to Ryan. These are pamphlets here.
I mostly just need, the date and time. Oh, I have the date. We're still doing, what was it, 1 to 3 p.m.? Okay.
Same as last time, though.
Yeah, whatever it was last time, because I want you to sign.
I'll just work on getting things so yeah, just send it out. Okay, yeah. I'll work on something over the weekend. I'll send it out. I think instead of introduction, oh, hey, my next page is on.
please understand.
I think instead of, introduction to forms of government, we'll find something to express how we've been structuring the form of government or something like that. I'll try to find a good way to phrase that, and I'll send something out over the weekend. But honestly, I think that I should be able to put together a flyer pretty quickly for this.
With, all the signs still delivered by Wednesday morning.
We're not there yet.
Oh, yeah, then there may be some people for the first time who won't even understand our form of government. Maybe they're short. Like-
Well, that would be for the PowerPoint, yeah, that would be.
Yeah. Also.
I think we're gonna make the PowerPoint again. Are you, or do you need help?
I mean, I'll need help, yeah.
I think that's something later, I guess, but on the flyer that we get out, do we also want to point out that where the information is on the internet?
Yeah, I'll make sure that the Minerva Park Charter Commission website link is on there,
Yeah,
typed
that's
out.
a good idea.
Should we point out what percentage we've done? Is that
Well, you know what, how about we do that?
I'm just saying,
How about we look at that percentage and see if it
Well,
was
it's a monitor.
For us too. we
But,
can-
So back to this, Pam, your point, we need to have those flyers completed, so we can come back and.
Right, but if I get the copy, then I can go that Wednesday or Thursday, here, if we can get them copied here again.
Yeah, so if we can get them by the 18th,
that shouldn't be a problem.
okay,
Perfect.
so,
And then we're 27th, correct?
correct, so we can get it by the 18th. Are you gonna print them out again like we did before here?
Yes, yes. The only thing that was nice is what we did before was that we met that Sunday so people can pick up their packets. And
We're not meeting that Sunday.
we are not meeting that.
So where should we?
So maybe if you can get it done earlier,
She can get it to us.
Yeah, I could probably send you
Monday
something
or Tuesday, and get them ready
this weekend.
to people on Thursday night.
Right, if you can get it to us before our meeting this Sunday, let's get that Sunday and make sure we all like it. And then if you can get it Wednesday or Thursday, we'll pick them up Thursday night. And then pass it out. The 22nd, 23rd, 24th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So I'm writing down things. Do you have everything you need, Pam, for that? You got back to something else?
No idea. I have some bags.
All right, so it has a distribution of the distributes. Question, when is the Easter egg hunt?
Look
Look at that.
Wait a minute.
No, Easter egg hunt.
Oh, somebody just told my question. But the meeting is the 27th, is that correct?
Yes, there was a.
I've got a sign we can put up. I'll go look on the board.
Thank you, sir. Because literally there's a big colorful flyer on the door, so I don't But I mean,
Yeah.
the
Myself.
20th?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right. Easter egg hunt, church.
So when is it?
Yeah, we're gonna have a town hall.
We have this.
All right, so PowerPoint needs to be made. Who would love to help put together a PowerPoint for this?
I'm so glad.
Well, it's not necessarily the magic typing. You can have one person do the magic typing. It's really more the input of, here's the flow, this looks good, this is a terrible idea, this is a brilliant idea. That's where it gets dicey. It took us, what, 4 hours to go through one that was already created? So this is not a 2-hour on Saturday, put it together.
I also think this one doesn't necessarily need to be as detailed.
And we're definitely gonna argue about it.
Yeah.
After it's done.
So if we were to,
There was just an article that I read that people who routinely oppose a general consensus actually help make better consensus.
That's what I was, yeah, that's what
We're talking very.
I know, I already know this.
She wrote that.
all right, so Sarai and I, who else would like to contribute to that conversation?
Is that a specific thing or what?
Well, I haven't figured that out, because I need to figure out who's gonna be part of that. All right, so we've got Sarai, myself, Brian, Rena.
It was a good group.
Just let me know when.
Okay, so let's figure that out now. 'Cause
Okay.
we're here, we've got 15 minutes time, we'll time. This weekend is not, the 13th, I can't do this. Someone's birthday.
I can also do like afternoons on Sundays, like afternoon, early evening on Sundays.
This weekend is probably bad because
Just think, if you're a council, you have to do 3 consecutive.
Except for, Thursdays and Tuesdays. But yeah.
What's your, next week? Yeah. I think we're done.
Probably do it any evening.
Oh, I really start that. We can catch you up. I'm sorry, next Sunday. And we are having Tuesdays. Yeah, that's like, today was only.
Oh.
Yeah. It is? Yeah. Okay, so let's try something. And the 3 of us will be the exact time, we'll work on those. And then try to have something put together and then a weekday, evening, not Tuesday.
Yeah.
So do we want to do Monday or Wednesday? Oh, wait, I can't use this data. Okay. I didn't even know what it is.
The 17th? Are we talking 17th or 20th? 17th. Yeah, that's fine for me.
I need to.
17th?
Awesome. Okay. Can you do the 17th? Go,
Yeah, what day?
17th. You
17?
said yes.
You said sir, so I was.
Ah!
Yeah, no, I'm cool on
Okay. Last time we did it at my house, I've got 2 screens and an office, I can shut the door. Wow. There is beer at your house, yes, there is. You can bring beer to
I
your
don't know if that'll
house.
contribute to the tracking effect of power.
Yes.
Or, but we should add.
I also have a I'll bring beer. Yeah, sure. All right, perfect. So we've got the PowerPoints. Hopefully we will have some presentations to present next week. Make sure that you guys all agree out going. We've got a plan for advertising. We've got curtain reserves. What else on town hall?
Should we print the copies of the articles that are completed?
I'm sorry.
So we can print the articles that are completed and pass them out for the town hall.
And you can just because I'm going to put it on the slides.
Okay.
I'm guessing we'll probably just direct this section of it. I know, because it is very online. At this point, let's face it, you start scrolling, you start going outside. So I'm thinking the PowerPoint, maybe calling out the major sections, like here's all friends, what we're trying to achieve. And then directing them to the website if they want to read it.
And are we only talking about section articles that we've completed?
We'll get to that probably by the 27th, we're not going to do it. So we're gonna have to bring that one, we have copies this week.
And did we finish 4?
Oh, maybe.
We'll do that live.
We did. Yeah, we did. And I think this.
We did not work on either of the sections that we were supposed to work on tonight.
I know, by the time that will. Oh, yeah.
So I have a suggestion. My suggestion is that we do what we did with the form of government, with the sections that we're disagreeing on, the sections that are threaded out. And we take one night to go through those sections and get it hammered out and get those sections done in one night.
And the reason I like that is because it didn't take us all night, we actually did a great job.
We actually did do a great job. Don't expect it to go as smoothly the second time, but still, we need to get these sections done so we can say, hey, it's in the bag, let's go on to the rest.
We need to have the answers.
So.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is, some of you, I'll find you ask what percent is done, what we have left. I would like to go through and make that actual evaluation.
We're gonna have time.
Yeah, and see where we are in our timeline. So that way we decide if we have that meeting sooner rather than later.
We need to have that, I'm telling you, we are practically out of time because I've already done this. We are way behind. And I think things coming further down the road are gonna be a lot easier. And that's why I want us to get these big ticket items out of the
I
way.
think same thing here, we need to go a little, I feel like I usually suggest earlier than later. If there's like 10 people that say yes and 4 that say no.
Then let's
That's
just
not
move
fair.
on. Let's just move on.
Because,
Exactly.
you're not gonna, Saturday's gonna be,
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah, I will try to do a better job of managing the conversation.
I think you're doing an excellent job.
I do. I'm just complaining, I think we're a little bit on that.
I'll try to read this in faster.
You get to the point of throwing things.
No, it doesn't mean that I'm not gonna be vociferous about my opinion though.
That's all right.
So do we know what we're working on Sunday?
All the housing.
Oh.
No, just kidding, just kidding.
Oh, you gotta go to Monroe Avenue and get yourself some country sweet wings. Those are the best wings in the country.
So, are we having a regular meeting on Sunday?
It's just a work.
Or?
Yes.
It's
It's a regular meeting.
So, we're all calling this around here.
didn't vote anything on Sundays.
Because I would make a recommendation that we try to plow
No, we didn't,
through
because-
6, 7, and 8 on Sunday and like finalize those.
You'd like to do, you said 6, 7, 8?
Yeah.
So we've done 8, yes.
So, no, we did 8. We have done 8, okay, all right. And we, like, that was what we were supposed to work on today, and we did not.
So you're gonna have it up on the web though by maybe Saturday, or you're ready, we can all like print it off if we want to.
Oh, no, it's not gonna be in a printable format, it's gonna be reading from the website.
Right. You print off the web.
It's gonna be on,
You have, I mean, we can put it up on the OneDrive or the public website.
You don't even read July.
Oh,
And then we must- That would be the one. Looks like he's done.
it wouldn't be as good.
So what we were supposed to do today, that we never got to, and that's okay, because we made progress on other things, that we're supposed to go through boards and commissions and talk through what we discussed on Sunday. Our Sunday meetings are generally drafting, going through the memos that Paul Rutter provides us, and figuring out what we want Kelly to put together, copy and paste or rewrite, put it together, and then on Thursdays, we look at Kelly's version. We did that for the first part, for boards and commissions. We did not go through Kelly's version. And I'm kind of okay with that because Kelly's not here to speak to it anyways, and we make good progress on a lot of other groups. So for Sunday, do we want to have a new memo to go through, or do we want to go through section 8, Kelly here, and finalize section 8?
Well, I mean, this concerns the board of zoning appeals and stuff. And
We
maybe on a
need to
Thursday
take
or-
every meeting now to finalize
Yeah.
things. I'm so sorry to say that. I hate to say that, but we are folks literally running out of time. We are almost out of time to get this done by June.
It still needs discussed. You cannot discuss it before you finalize it. So
I'm
for Sunday, just for the Sunday,
So we have
I'm
4
not highlighting
sections
more,
left.
only this Sunday, what we do.
We have, okay, so we have 4 articles left.
They are.
They are initiative, referendum, and recall, nominations and elections,
Those are gonna be huge.
and amendments to charter, and general provisions.
That's not gonna be so bad.
So I think-
And charters isn't gonna be so bad.
Yeah,
Transition plan is in.
So six around.
and then, yeah, we don't have a transition plan on here yet, but that's not a part that is separate from the charter itself, is my understanding.
So for this
So-
Sunday,
For this Sunday, we could either work on 9 and 10, and then Thursday night, plow through literally as much as we can on approving stuff of what Kelly has written. No, it's actually
6, 7, and 8. We have not approved yet 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah,
I personally think that we should let that sit for a little bit and work on 8, 9, and 10. Because we're gonna end up, some of these things aren't just gonna be as radical as,
yeah,
I mean, it's not like we're gonna ignore these and not come back to them. Maybe we make a little more progress and
Yeah.
see how everything ties in together.
okay, I'm okay with that.
She don't think some of these are that
So,
I
yeah,
actually think
nine
we
and 10 on
agree on
Yeah.
the majority of what's coming.
okay, so 9 to 10 Sunday, I'll get the mail from all.
Okay.
And that's why I would know.
We talked about that, right?
Right.
Or 8 hours.
So we have 5 minutes left. Is there anything open?
I'm holding that was,
No, yeah,
Hey, got 5 minutes left. Open question. Is there anything of what we've discussed tonight that anyone is uncomfortable with, feels that they weren't heard, et cetera? And we voted, some people didn't get to.
I wasn't heard, just kidding.
Is there anything?
But they're gonna say that-
I tried very hard to make it more quiet, people are heard from, but is there anybody who didn't get to say something they really want to say? I want to make sure that we're sure.
I just wanna make sure that this document's gonna get up on the OneDrive so I can print it out if I want to.
Yes, before Sunday.
Thank you for asking, that's a good point.
Well, Kelly has been emailing to us and so we know.
Department's better.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we from there.
That's exciting.
Alright, me and Deb in the same boat, we wouldn't know. You know, we wouldn't know. That's not accurate.
Right. That's one of the reminders that everybody that when we're working on some of things, here for that. So,
Well, we discussed this twice, so, and we can take away questions, so.
Yeah, so you wanna talk to Eric about it?
Yes, well, hold on, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
But just, I'm sorry, if you could, 'cause Sundays are a little problematic for me.
Yes.
So if someone could just give me a heads up and perhaps the document specific to zoning and BZA, I would be happy to review, and if I can't make it, I could perhaps lend some comments to the discussion ahead of time. Yeah, that's my only request there.
Okay, and honestly, I think that if we have any takeaways, I'm very comfortable documenting and sending to you. But
Thank you.
obviously, an area where you know some things we don't.
Be happy to help.
All right, so we've got 5 minutes left. I'm done with everything I wanted to say. We have a plan for Sunday, we have a plan for town hall. Everybody has to read minutes. You can't push them off, we only have like 4 or 5. We approve the minutes on Sunday, we make that our goal.
Yes. The ones for this past month's 28th.
One for everything except Suzanne. And I won't do
I
that.
can type that up and have it mail out by tomorrow. Watch me work.
If you can, great, if not, we've got some others that we obviously have to find a fashion, probably entertain ourselves with.
I have the 28th, the 4th, the 8th, and the 7th.
All right, any other comments, questions, concerns before we adjourn?
I do.
I said, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
That was my job. Oh, my job there.
I appreciate it. I'm surprised.
You're allowed to,
I- I- I-
Uh, so-